Well, good afternoon. Thanks for coming, and true to my tradition, I like to start on time, and we'll end on time. We'll be done before 4:30, I hope. It's good to see you. It's good to see you, especially so many students. That's what's kept us here all these years, all these students. Right, me? And that's God's gift to us. So, in my tradition, this is the Reformed tradition, the Presbyterian tradition, we want to pay our debts. And Becky and I have enormous debts to pay in terms of gratitude. So this is my Ebenezer. Some of you may have seen these piles of stones various places, and it's very biblical. Let's just think about that. There's a famous hymn that's sung that's called "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." And it has this line, "Here I raise my Ebenezer, here, there, by thy great help I've come, and I hope by thy good pleasure safely to arrive at home." It's a kind of memorial. It's a stone of help. It's a recognition that Becky and I didn't do this ourselves, that we had lots of help, and God was on our side. And this is symbolically our Ebenezer. I hope one day to come here and see a great stone in the front yard. If you're a Lithuanian, you know that there's a couple things that are symbolic and almost spiritual. One is a grove of oak trees, the Druids, little rises on a flat plain, the hill of crosses, and great stones. Great stones have some kind of significance. So that's what I wanted to talk about here, the fount of every blessing. This is very American to say goodbye. Farewell addresses. The politicians like farewell addresses. Recently, Randy Pouch, who was a professor of computer science at an American university, was diagnosed with cancer. And suddenly he got the diagnosis that it was going to be terminal and fairly quickly. And so he had his last lecture. It's part of a series where academics are asked to think deeply about what matters to them and then give a hypothetical final talk. This is it for me. It's one last shot at you. I want you to know what I think, as best I can, you should know. At my age, I don't have a lot of time left. And I know that. And I want to get across in one final effort what wisdom I would impart to you if I knew this was my last chance. So there's three parts this morning, or this afternoon. The first is thank you. If you remember nothing else, remember we said thank you. And I particularly want to thank the students for their confidence, for their indulgence. I have to admit that not all my classes were all that good. Some of those readings were pretty boring. Some of those lectures were really, now why are you laughing? You're honors. And you stuck with me. And I always found that to be very, very rewarding. That's what kept us here, is your confidence that Becky and I had your interest at heart. And we thank you for that. It's one of the reasons that kept us here. I want to think about two words of wisdom, words that should be in the LCC lexicon. One is urgency. I want to hear that word. We've got to get this done. And the other is accountability. It's that person at the front desk who says, I know you got a problem. It's not exactly my job, but I'll take care of it. Accountability. If it goes wrong, you can blame me. And therefore, I'm going to see that it works. And finally end with some ideas about challenges and headwinds. LCC is a very fragile place. We have no entitlement. We have no pedigree. We have no legal status that guarantees us that we'll be successful. And we face three problems, I think. One is our mission context. The second is the liberal arts. And the third is Islam. And I want to end up with saying a few things about that. Where are the Lithuanians? Any Lithuanians here? Where is this? It's said to be the largest stone in Lithuania. I couldn't say it better myself. That's why I say it again for me.
Barstyčiai.
Barstyčiai. I said it better myself. That's one of the apologies. My Lithuanian is terrible. I should have been better at it. I'm pretty passive, and that was Vita's prediction, that I would be passive. I would understand but not be able to respond. And some of you may think that's good, that I just have to listen and not talk. And there she is. There's Radvita. Bajnice. Right? The largest stone in Lithuania. And so I want to say thank you, and Becky and I want you to understand how much we appreciate it. Ebenezer is the name of this stone that Samuel, the prophet Samuel, the seer, gave to a stone that he erected after the Israelites had defeated the Philistines. The Philistines were very powerful. They had captured the Ark of the Covenant. And they were a serious threat to the survival of Israel. God gave them a victory, and Samuel, in recognition of the victory, erected this stone, and he called it his Ebenezer. Thus far the Lord has helped us. When we decided that we should come here 16 years ago, we didn't know what was happening, what was going to happen. And it surprised us that things have worked out as well as they did. Lots of things could have gone wrong, but they didn't. And so this is our attempt to have our stone here, our stone of help, our Ebenezer. Another biblical farewell is Paul. The Apostle Paul, and I've come to understand more and more about his troubles and the way he did business and the partnership. It's Paul and Barnabas. Right? Paul never went anywhere by himself, and God gifted me with a wife who's very indulgent and tolerant, and we've got 45 years together and hope for more, and she keeps me on an even keel. And that's one of the things I've said that I wish for all of you is a partnership that's sustaining and life-giving. You have to work at it. But Paul called the elders of Ephesus. It was one of the churches he helped to found. He called them together to say farewell. And he reminded the elders of Ephesus of the things that he'd done. He didn't want to be a burden. He said, you know what I've taught you. He said, you're shepherds. And take care of the flock called the church. So it was a good message. But, you know, like most lectures, nobody paid any attention to anything he said except for, we'll never see you again. That's the only thing they remembered. And there were tears and hugs as they took him down to the ship to go to Jerusalem. Many of you have asked, what are we going to do now? What's going to happen to us? And like Paul, we don't know. Paul was on his way to Jerusalem. He was not sure what was going to happen, but he was pretty sure that the Holy Spirit would protect him, the Holy Spirit would guide him, and lead him in the direction he should go. So we don't really know what's going to happen next. We're going to get on the plane tomorrow morning, God willing, and we'll arrive in the United States somewhat later, with all our luggage, we hope. And then we'll see what happens. We think that there's some life left in us. We're not giving up. We're not saying the retirement word. We're saying new things, and we'll see what happens. But Paul's farewell address to the elders at Ephesus, they didn't remember anything he said except goodbye. And he trusted the Holy Spirit to carry him on. So here are those two words, urgency. It's a small place. LCC is a small and vulnerable place. It's fragile. We don't have a lot of resources. We're really thin. Not just money, but personnel and time. We've got to get things done. It's what I hope is people understand that. And you hurry down the hall. You say, we got to get this done. When? Now. We got to get this done now. And it has to be done right. We don't have time to do things 3 or 4 times. We need to get it done. Or it's urgent. This is important for our survival. So that's a word that goes in our lexicon. Lexicon is the language of the institution. And I'd like to hear that word. It's part of my advice. It's urgent. We get this done. Conclude it today. Wrap it up. Project management, if you will. The other is accountability. We have lots of authority. We have lots of positions. We have lots of things that people are responsible for. But you need to be accountable. If it doesn't go right, I'm the person that you can complain to. I'm the person responsible. Accountability is an important part of management, and my advice is to get those into the language of everyday life here. Urgent and accountable. If you make a promise, you say, well, you can count on me to fulfill that promise. And we got to get it done. We can't fuss around. There's an urgency because we don't have the time to redo things. We talk about servant leadership, right? Everybody's a servant leader. It actually is an odd pedigree here. It actually comes from a corporate guru, AT&T. The guy was a corporate executive, Robert Greenleaf. And he said the central ethic of servant leadership is foresight. It's the lead in leadership. We have this nice little journal called the LCC Liberal Arts Studies, I think. And I once wrote an article about servant leadership. I have to say it's very unread. I didn't think it was that bad. But, and I've told many of the students before that the difference between a good paper and a bad paper is not which one gets criticism or praise, but a bad paper is one that's ignored. No one knows anything about it. So I'm sort of getting over that. But it talks about the responsibility of leaders to see what's coming, to look out there over the next hill. We know that a lot of change comes from the fringe. There's a lot of noise out there, a lot of things being said, much of which doesn't matter at all. And to be not a prophet or predictor, but to anticipate what's going on. So it's anticipating change. It's more than guessing. There are ways to make a forecast, to have foresight, to see what's beyond the next hill. You send out scouts. You listen to people you don't normally listen to. In many cases, they seem like crazies. The best example I give is someone that people thought was crazy was Bill Gates. Remember he talked, well you don't remember this, but I remember. He talked about the desktop, you know this, he talked about the desktop. And that's not what he meant. He meant this over here. And he talked about files. Not physical files, but other files. And that's just become the way it works. And people thought he was crazy back in the 1970s. Now he's one of the richest people in the world, and one of the dominant things is Windows as an operating system. But we thought he was crazy. And so we need to think about what the change might be. We can't just guess. What can reasonably be expected? We talk about scenarios. What's the scenario? What's likely to happen? What can we reasonably expect? We're in an age where a century, the amount of change that happened in 100 years, now happens in about 10 years. We have centuries that are 10 years on. And you know that from Moore's Law. Right? Anybody remember what Moore's Law is? Gordon Moore, founder of Intel, said the rate of change is the capacity of a transistor doubles every 18 months. That's how fast. So if it's 18 months ago, it's old news. If you bought a computer last year, better think about a new one. And I've been cleaning out here, and the generations of technology were just stunning. We throw out all these transparencies, all these glycines, these overheads. Oh, we threw those all out. And we threw out the VCR tapes. Oh, I remember trying to show a VCR here, and it was on this little cart, and it really creaks, and the students were just stunned at this ancient technology, VCR tapes. But I liked it because if there was a glitch in the tape, you could put your pencil in it, you could turn it, and you could tape it together. You can't do that with a CD. So out they went, have absolutely no value. Cassette tapes. the library, God bless them, tried to sell them. And the price went like from 10 litas to 2 litas to 1 lita, and every day it was no sale. No sale. And I got a whole box of cassette tapes. They've been described like cockroaches. You just can't get rid of them. You stomp on them and they keep coming back. And 3.5-inch discs. Polos, I don't know what you've done, but you can't play those. There's no slot to stick in anywhere, right? We got boxes of those. And we had fun smashing them up, taking them apart. Absolutely no value. So that the technology, just at LCC, just the time we've been here, has really been stunning. So a leader's going to say, what's next? What's the next technological change in the classroom? Technology's out there, and if you want to be a leader, you're thinking about what's going to happen in the next moment. Wayne Gretzky, the famous Canadian hockey player, said, "You don't skate to where the puck is, you skate to where it's going to be." You plan for what's going to be. There's a lot of guilty people now who didn't see it coming. The best quotation I can think of in economics is Queen Elizabeth. I like her. She's 90-some, and boy, and you better do what she says. I mean, she asked a bunch of economists about the crisis, the 2008-2009 crisis, and she wanted to know, how come you didn't see it coming? Why didn't you see it coming? Well, everybody saw that it was coming after the fact. But what's coming? What's out there? You know, you're in a tunnel, it's kind of dark, you see this light, little light in the distance grows brighter, and you realize it's a train, and if you're going to stand there, it's going to run you over. So this idea of servant leadership, the central ethic is foresight. That's what gives you leadership capabilities. And we want to think about what is coming next. We're at 25 years, apparently, and hope for another, well, more than 26. And what's going to happen? Just imagine 5 years and 10 years out there, what LCC will be like. So here's 3 issues to think about. One is our mission context. Many of us are mission personnel. My wife and I actually work for the Presbyterian Church. And we're sent here on a mission. Our mission was to participate in the life of LCC. Our mission was to be authentic witnesses to God's grace. Our mission is to be caring adults with these young people that trust us. That was our mission. That is our mission. I want to think about that context. The liberal arts. This is my pitch. I want my legacy. I feel like Obama now, you know. I want to understand what my legacy is. That's how I got this idea. You know, he's out there. He's only got a few days left, and he wants you to understand what his legacy is. It's also Martin Luther King's birthday observance today. And I'll end by this little speech he gave about, what would you have said about you, they asked him. What would you have at the end of time? That he says, the reality is we're going to die, and what would you want said of you? And so I think that's an important part. So I want to defend my legacy in terms of liberal arts and issue a challenge. We need to be thinking more about Islam. David Schenck, one of the former AVPs, right? I had to explain to the present AVP's wife what an AVP was. What's an AVP? Academic Vice President, yeah, there we go. Okay. David Schenck is very much concerned about dialogue between Christianity and Islam. And I try to teach in economics that Islam is not out there, it's right here. Islamic economics is very prominent in this world. It's a very profitable form of investment, and it's not out there, it's here. It's part of the emerging European culture. Turkey is people were afraid of turkey when it was very successful.